Who are you? What's your errand?
There's a moment near the end of House of the Dragon Season 3, Episode 6, where everything seems to be falling into place for Rhaenyra Targaryen for the first time in weeks. Her army is finally turning back toward the capital. Her hand has swallowed his pride. The war, for one brief second, feels winnable again. And then it's gone. Ripped away in an ambush so sudden that the screen cuts to black before you can even process what you just watched. Corlys Velaryon, the sea snake himself, is a prisoner. And the reason why might be far more unsettling than a simple act of war. This episode has been building toward collapse for a while now. Rhaenyra sits on the Iron Throne in a city that no longer trusts her. Her city watch is falling apart from the inside, her half-brothers are missing, and the one man she needed most, Corlys, had all but walked away from her after she refused to legitimize his bastard sons. So when she sends Alicent Velaryon to beg Corlys to bring his army home, it isn't just a strategic request. It's Rhaenyra admitting, quietly, that she is losing. Corlys almost says no. He has every reason to. But in the final stretch of the episode, something shifts in him and he agrees to march back to King's Landing.
But now, your blades are needed in the city.
For a moment, it feels like a turning point. Then Sir Jon Roxton, a knight loyal to Ormund Hightower, springs a trap on the Velaryon host, and Corlys is dragged away in chains before the credits even finish rolling. So why take him alive? That's the question worth sitting with. Because the answer isn't as obvious as it looks. Killing Corlys would have been the easy move, the brutal, efficient move that stops his army cold and sends Rhaenyra a message written in blood. Ormund didn't do that. And there's no ransom to be paid here. Rhaenyra isn't going to negotiate, and the small folk of Tumbleton are already enough of a leash on her behavior. So what does Ormund actually want with the sea snake? Go back a few scenes earlier in the episode, and there's a conversation between Ormund and young Daemon Targaryen that suddenly feels a lot more important in hindsight. Ormund tells Daemon that making Corlys her hand was one of the only smart decisions Rhaenyra has made this entire war. He even takes a swipe at Otto Hightower's track record in the same role, just to make the compliment land harder. That's not the way you talk about a man you plan to execute. That's the way you talk about a man you want on your side. And think about what Ormund actually needs right now. He has crowned Daemon king in front of witnesses, but a boy in a squire's green cloak doesn't become a king just because a few soldiers say so. He needs legitimacy. He needs lords who matter to bend the knee, or at least stop fighting him. A defected Velaryon, Rhaenyra's own hand, walking calmly into the Hightower camp, would be worth more to that cause than a dozen more swords. Corlys alive and persuadable is infinitely more valuable to Ormund than Corlys dead. Here's where it gets even more interesting, because this entire situation is something George R.R. Martin never wrote. There's no capture like this in Fire and Ant Blood. In the book, Corlys' story goes somewhere much darker and entirely of Rhaenyra's own making. After the devastating loss at Tumbleton, when Hugh Hammer and Ulf White betray the Blacks, Rhaenyra spirals and orders the execution of another dragon seed, Adam of Hull. Corlys, defending the boy, helps him escape justice, and Rhaenyra throws her own hand in a dungeon for defying her. That imprisonment fractures her support in the capital even further, feeding directly into the uprising that eventually forces her to flee King's Landing altogether. When Aegon reclaims the throne, Corlys walks free and swears fealty to the very usurper who took Rhaenyra's crown. Notice what's happening with this new version of the story. In the book, Rhaenyra destroys her own alliance with her own hands. Here, Ormund does it for her. The show keeps finding ways to place the blame for Rhaenyra's unraveling onto someone else's shoulders, and Corlys, kidnapping might be the clearest example yet. It raises a real question about where this adaptation is heading with her character, and whether the queen we're watching will ever be allowed to make the mistakes that defined her downfall in the source material. Corlys isn't the only person whose story just detoured from canon. In this same episode, Alicent says goodbye to Helaena before leaving for Harrenhal, sent there by Rhaenyra to lure Aemond out and presumably to his death. It's a mission Alicent clearly despises, but her focus in that final scene isn't the war at all. It's her daughter. Helaena is fragile, confined to her chambers by Rhaenyra's orders, pregnant and unraveling. Alicent manages to get her to eat something before she rides off. A small mercy, but a mercy that might not be enough. In the book, Helaena eventually takes her own life, though whispers persist that Rhaenyra had a hand in it. Watching Alicent walk away from her daughter in this episode, there's an uncomfortable sense that whatever happens to Helaena next, it will happen without her mother there to stop it. And there's one more death buried in this episode that's easy to miss in the chaos. Ser Criston Cole is finally gone. This is a man fire and amp. Blood readers have been waiting to see fall since the Butcher's Ball was first mentioned, and the show doesn't give him the spectacle he clearly wanted. Criston spent this season talking about dying in a blaze of glory, a death worthy of songs that would reach Alicent's ears one day. Instead, Alicent Blackwood puts 2 arrows in his chest and 1 through his face before he even gets to draw his sword properly. No monologue, no final stand, just mud and silence. It's almost cruel how anticlimactic it is, and that might be exactly the point. A man who spent his whole life chasing meaning through violence dies meaninglessly, and nobody sings a single note about it. Criston's death does open the road to Tumbleton for the Rivermen and Roddy the Ruin's Winter Wolves, which means the battle fire and amp. Blood readers have been anticipating is finally within reach, but how the show handles it is anyone's guess at this point, especially with Corlys now sitting inside enemy territory as a hostage rather than a combatant. Which brings everything back to Ormund Hightower, a man who, episode by episode, is turning into the most punchable presence in this entire war. He's manipulative with Daemon, dismissive of Gwaine, and now he's holding one of the most respected lords in Westeros as a bargaining chip. There's already a crack forming in his own camp, too. After the Baratheon assassination attempt earlier in the episode, one that Ormund completely failed to see coming, and that Gwaine had to end with his own blade, Daemon is starting to look at his mentor differently. The boy who once trusted Ormund's every word now knows exactly how fallible the man really is. So here's what's worth sitting with as the credits roll. Is Ormund genuinely trying to build something lasting with Daemon and Corlys, or is he simply improvising his way toward a collapse of his own making? And if Corlys does end up swearing loyalty to the Greens the way he did in the book, just under completely different circumstances, does that make Rhaenyra's downfall feel any less inevitable, or does it just delay it? What we do know is that Ormund Hightower has made himself the villain the show desperately needed, and characters like this rarely survive long in Westeros. Whether he falls at Tumbleton or somewhere further down the road, the pieces are already in motion. What do you think Ormund actually wants from Corlys, and do you think the Sea Snake ends up switching sides before this war is over? Drop your theory in the comments below.
His Grace. Daemon Targaryen.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more House of the Dragon coverage as Season 3 heads into its final 2 episodes.
I have no